Going on, everyone? Welcome to the first episode of the Wrestle Report, brought to you by the Phil Talk Sports Podcast Network. If you're new to the channel, you came at a good time, but if you are a recurring listener, don't worry, the original show isn't going away. This is just going to be a secondary show on the podcast where we talk only pro wrestling. It is the Wrestle Report with Phil and Don. Almost forgot the name for a minute. I'm Phil. That's Donovan over there.
Hey,
Before we get into any topics and stuff, I'll just tag in my tag team partner here and let him introduce himself. If you guys are familiar with the channel, you know me already, so I don't want to hog the mic. Donovan, go ahead and introduce yourself to everybody.
Hey, what's going on, everyone? My name is Donovan. I have been a wrestling fan since I was 5 years old. I'm 28, so that's 23 years. Right? Am I doing math right?
Yeah, that's good. That's math.
Okay. But yeah, I've been a wrestling fan for pretty much my whole life since I can remember, and I'm happy to be here.
Yeah,
man.
we got a pretty similar story. We're the same age, and we've been watching for about the same amount of time. With my normal show, I tend to just like shoehorn wrestling topics in, even if my guest doesn't know much about wrestling, so it didn't always go well. So for a while, we wanted to just like do a show that was nothing but wrestling to, complement the regular Phil Talk Sports show where we talk football, basketball, baseball, all that other stuff. So it just took the right partner to have. Donovan stepped up, and I'm glad to have him. So we'll dive in here, I guess, right away. Starting next week, we're going to not really review shows, but talk about things that have happened throughout the week. But, this has been a pretty interesting time, I think, because wrestling is both as entertaining to watch as it's ever been. It's like a buffet. Just eat what you want because there's so many options. And then with the COVID, obviously, it's been as least entertaining without the crowd. So I think that's a good place to start, obviously. As a fan, you've been watching, like you said, 20 years, more than that now at this point. We've never seen anything quite like this. I've been to shows that maybe had like 10 people there, indie shows or whatever, but I never thought I'd see a WWE show with, 15 people in the stands. How have you been adjusting to the no crowd? Who do you think's doing it best, and who do you think needs to, change things?
For sure, I think that WWE needs to change it up a little bit. I like the plexiglass, but I just don't like the banging. I think the banging of the plexiglass it takes away from the actual fight because all I'm hearing is that. I don't hear the commentators. I don't hear none of that. But I'd rather just be the chants and stuff. But AEW is definitely taking it to the house because I can actually sit there and watch it without being irritated from the crowds. From the other wrestlers for AEW.
Yeah, I mean, when I watch AEW, it truly feels like, it's just the guys that aren't booked or their match was later in the night, just hanging out watching the show because that's exactly what it is. Like, it reminds me of, like, if you played basketball or baseball and you were at, like, a tournament and, like, your buddy was playing on another team and you're just, like, hanging out. Like, the NBA just started today based on the day that we're doing this, and other players can sit and watch these games that are in like these close settings, and it just feels so natural. And like, I'm not really trying to harp on WWE because like they're doing what they can, but they almost feel like hostages. Like they just took these guys, they put masks on them, and they like force them to watch wrestling. I do agree. I like the hockey plates. Like I don't mind seeing people getting thrown into them and stuff. Like that's not bad. But and then you got a place like Impact that are still no people at all. And yeah, I think it's just their studio is so small that the quantity of people they can have is already probably where it needs to be. I'd like to see, and ROH, hasn't really ran a lot of shows, but when they do, I hope they at least they do the, wrestlers that aren't wrestling aspect of it. So, like, I mean, as long as we're making wishes, I hope it just goes away soon and we can get, like, crowds again. That would be good. Yeah. But, yeah, I mean, I think they're doing what they can. I will say AEW also probably – doing it the best. Honestly, when I watched their Double or Nothing pay-per-view, I didn't notice it at all. Like, I think they just let the guys be a little extra hype or whatever, but, like, only when they showed me empty seats did I realize that there is nobody there. Like, the people around the ring were still hype enough and everything, and the matches was just banger after banger and stuff. So, I think AEW's doing it the best. I think everybody's letting themselves adjust, and if they feel they can make a change, they will. But I think we're stuck with this for at least a little while. But at least the wrestling is watchable because I think with no people, I think we agree we've exhausted that limit. Like we can't see with no people anymore. I don't know how you feel about it.
Oh, I mean, I like. At first, I did like it because you could actually hear the communication, the trash talk, and I think that's what made Bailey more watchable now is because she actually trash talks during her matches, and you can hear everything she's saying. Same as Sasha. I will say this about AEW though. Sometimes I think they take the action out of the match and look at the people that's in the wrestlers. Like when I first saw them have the wrestlers out there, they had MJF and Sean Spears
Yeah,
basically betting the whole time, and like it was like the camera was on them and the camera was on the wrestlers in the ring.
right.
And I feel like sometimes it takes away from the actual wrestling.
I do think
But I like it though.
yeah, they might pan to him a little too much, but I like that like they're still in gimmick. Like on the spot, like why wouldn't Spears and MJF bet like when they're not in the ring? You got like the librarian is reading his book. You got like the Billy and Austin Gunn like father and son moment. You know, you like everyone's still in gimmick. Like obviously, if it's WWE, let's say you can't have like the War Raiders or whatever they're calling themselves now. Like they're not just gonna sit there. You got to pick and choose. Who like Cedric Alexander, for example, he could just sit there and enjoy a show and you wouldn't think anything of it. But some of the more character-driven guys, you have to be careful if they decide to do that. Like you're not gonna like obviously like Undertaker's not really a thing anymore. But if he was like main event, like but you wouldn't just have the Undertaker chilling watching a show. Like so, I think if you do it with the lower card guys, it'll still be fine because their characters are already a little cheesy as it is. So you can just let them do that in the confines of being a crowd member.
True, that is true.
Yeah, so I mean, but for now we're getting what we can get, and I mentioned Impact is still doing no people at all, and I don't think it's by choice. I think it's by necessity. But I did catch Slammiversary, was it 2 weeks ago now? Because they trended #1 in the world for the first time in a long time. Because I find it hard to believe they didn't plan this, but Slammiversary was the day after all the WWE releases no competes expired. Like they expired on the 17th, the show's on the 18th. They brought in a lot of guys, the Good Brothers, of course, Carl Anderson and Doc Gallows, the Big LG, easily the biggest names, and they dropped their podcast at midnight. The whole thing was great. I had to explain to my fiance why I had to watch a podcast at midnight on that day because I needed to know their side of the story at that time. And then not just them, of course, it's Eric Young, EC3, and then Brandon Myers, the former – oh, geez. I'm already forgetting his name, which is good. Zack Ryder's buddy.
Oh, Kurt Hawkins.
Yeah, okay. I'm glad I'm forgetting that already because I want to be able to call him Brandon Myers. But, yes, the former Kurt Hawkins, Brandon Myers signed with Impact also. And they traded #1 in the world, which probably hasn't happened ever because when they were in their heyday, Twitter was barely a thing. So out of those mentioned, who do you think – I think it's easy to say the Good Brothers, but, like, Eric Young being back is a big deal. Obviously, EC3 was mistreated. Brandon Myers is an X factor because we've never seen him booked seriously. So, out of all those guys, who are you most excited to see like be taken seriously again, or for the first time?
I want to see what EC3 does because I've heard of him from NXT. I was not really a big fan of EC3 when he first took his first stint in NXT. Mm-hmm. So, like, when I first saw him come back and I saw, oh, man, he's jacked now. He's serious. And he actually was serious for a bit. And then Vince done.
Yeah.
Pushed him to the back. They just kept on digging him a grave, man. But I like to see also Kurt Hawkins. I want him to go on a streak, the 290 whatever. How many losing streak how many times he lost in WWE? Mm-hmm. I want him to go on a streak for that much wins. To be like, ha.
Yeah. that for sure would be pretty cool to see. The whole EC3 thing is crazy because I was at either when he debuted in NXT, we went to a taping, or it was like the taping after where we had his first match. But when they showed the whole like 1%er gimmick, and I was like, oh, that's perfect. Like that is a that ball left the stadium. That is a home run gimmick for him. And it like, I think he got a shot at the title or maybe like a #1 contenders match and didn't win it. And then it was just steady decline after that. And you forgot he was in NXT until he showed up on Raw. And then it was just, he had that thing where, he didn't talk and he was carrying a solo cup for some reason. And I'm sure the Street Profits were like, hey, that's our gimmick. And then Vince was like, I guess I got to fire him then. Like, so
he
he's
had that whole match with Dean Ambrose.
Yeah.
And that shot him in the foot right there too, because everyone knew that Dean Ambrose was leaving, and they put this man against him.
Yeah. And then you got Eric Young. Obviously, the sanity thing was cool in NXT. They never really gave it the ride it deserved on SmackDown. But Eric Young has done everything you can do in TNA. Like when he goes there, that's a veteran. That's like, he's held every title. He's been world champ. He's been tag champ. He's been women's tag champ. If that explains anything else.
Yeah, too. I do remember seeing that too.
But yeah, so and he's another guy showed up best shape of his life. And I'm actually forgetting someone. Heath Slater showed up there too this past week on Impact.
Oh, that is true.
So it's gonna be cool to see him. What he can do. He's gonna face Moose for the TNA title, the fake one, not the real one. But it was really funny because he came and he's like, oh, the championship committee said I get a match. And he's like, there is no championship committee. And he's like, oh, you're saying the belt isn't real? And he's like, no, it's real. Fine, you get your match. Like he hoodwinked him into it. So I'm looking forward to that next week. But he's another guy showed up jacked beyond all belief. These guys, they're stuck in their home. Like all they probably could do was work out. So all these guys are showing up in the best shape they've ever been in, looking the best they can. I wouldn't lie and say that I've watched TNA or Impact a lot lately, but I did download Twitch for the sole purpose of watching it. I don't know, like with all these guys, are you inclined at all to watch Impact? Have you started watching it since it happened?
I did. I did get the Access channel just so I could see it. Mm-hmm. It was part of a package, so I was like, yeah, might as well check it out. I did catch a little bit of the end of on Tuesdays. Mm-hmm. Between Gallows and Anderson, the little backstage brawl thing. Speaking of that, I like that ending. That was a cool ending. Great.
So I wanted a couple weeks ago when they did the Orange Cassidy Chris Jericho thing, they were fighting near all the wires, and I thought like, oh, how cool would it be if he threw him into some electrical equipment and just cut the show off? Like how and I don't know, maybe they heard me or something, but because like TNA was great. And no, I always wanted that to happen, and it finally did. So that was good. So you watch it on regular TV. So you get, like, when it goes commercial, you just get regular commercials, right?
Regular commercials.
All right. So when you watch it on Twitch, they obviously don't play commercials. But when they cut to commercial, they have this, I don't know if it's one of the divas or the ring announcer. I don't know her name. But she just reads, like, Twitch comments. And it's so annoying. Like, every couple commercials, they show you, like, a flashback match. Like, oh, remember when Samoa Joe was here? Remember when AJ Styles was here? Like, they need to do that every time because I'm tired of muting my TV during the commercials, before it pops back. So, like, it is a whole nother experience watching on Twitch. The show's the same. Like, they don't have to cut anything out, which is nice. And it's funny. I think it's stuff you get away with because the parent company of Impact also owns that TV station. I think it's the only way you can get away with streaming on Twitch while the show is live. So, like, it is a unique experience that they get away with. So, I do think it's going to be neat to have that, because I don't have that channel. I'd have no way of watching it otherwise. So it definitely works out. I'm definitely going to be watching more of it. There's certain things, like it's a whole new guard now when they got all these guys, and I think they're going to flush out what works and what doesn't. So, like, some of the things I wasn't crazy about, I'm not going to say, like, everything was great. But I definitely saw, like, Eddie Edwards is a great champion. I've seen that guy live a couple times back when he was still in the American Wolves. Apparently he's going to do basically, like, the open challenge, like, defend the belt every week for a while. So that'll be cool. You get a title match every time. Motor City Machine Guns are back, which are easily, like, a top 5 team of, like, our generation, you could say. Like, if you leave out, like, guys before them or whatever. So to see them have the belts, that match against the North 2 weeks ago was awesome. But yeah, the jury is out on Impact, but at least they got me in the courthouse, if that makes sense. I'm at least curious now. I mean, for the longest time, I would just, like, they'd post some videos on Twitter and, like, I'd get the gist of what was going on, and that was enough for me. And now I actually feel the need to watch it live,
Yeah. Like, I was only watched really when I was liking TNA when Samoa Joe and AJ Styles and Kurt Angle. Back in that time, I haven't really checked it out lately, but when Slammiversary did come on, I did see Twitter go crazy.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, okay, Impact is trying to build back up. They're trying to make that be that third brand,
Yeah.
that third company that for the United States. So I'm happy
Yeah.
for them.
And I'm here for it too. Like even like when ROH was
Yeah,
doing their thing, like I was all on that. Like the more wrestling that's good, the better. So like I hope they.
yeah.
And I used to go like Billy, you know Billy. Shout out to Billy. He'll probably be on here with us at some point. When we were younger, like early high school, late middle school, like we used to go to show him before me, but he got me into it. We used to go to shows all the time. He went to all the tapings. I went to pay-per-views. I was a die in the wool TNA supporter for the longest time, and it sucked to see them get in the state that they were in, but it's great to see that they're coming back. So hopefully next week we'll have some more Impact stuff to bring up. I think the biggest thing, Good Brothers are there. Heath will have his first match. Maybe he's going to walk away with a belt that may or may not be real. We'll find out next week. So let's jump to some other, just like I said, starting next week, we're going to review shows. But right now, I just want to, for this intro episode, just bring in a bunch of stuff that is noteworthy. Let's start with Monday Night on Raw. Couple of things. Randy Orton is apparently going to face Drew Galloway for the WWE title. Do you think this is just going to be, like, do you think Orton wins this, or I hope the Drew experiment isn't over. Like, where are you on that?
I don't want Drew to lose, but I could see him losing.
Yeah.
Just because Randy Orton is having a crazy 2020 and it's gonna get better. And I feel like he might squeeze out a win.
It's believable, at least. Like
but I really do not want Drew to lose because I like Drew as a champion. Drew's a good watch.
Because like Miz and Morrison were never gonna beat him, right? Who else? Ziggler was never gonna beat him. Like some of his challengers, like they've been decent matches, but you knew like he's winning. At least with this one, you feel like it could go either way.
Yeah.
And I think the only other big noteworthy thing on Raw was Kairi Singh is apparently done with the company, and I was very intrigued with how they kind of wrote her out, if you will. There was the women's title match. Bayley was beating up Singh backstage. Asuka went to rescue her, so Sasha wins by countout. Don't love that in a bubble, just winning a title by countout. But given the whole circumstance, it makes sense, I think. And I think before we even came on, you said you kind of liked how they pulled all that off.
Yeah, because it was if it was a countout, the other person won. If it was a disqualification, the other person won. So I like the stipulations of it, and I mean it doesn't hurt Asuka.
No,
it doesn't hurt Asuka at all because she didn't lose technically. She probably gained more respect because she ran out to go help her friend.
Yeah. So,
but I feel like on top of that though, Bayley should have got knocked out by Asuka because by the time Asuka got there, Bayley was late to the scene, and then she just trying to take. Then she took off.
Yeah.
Asuka could have pounded her in a couple times and then ran out.
I mean, I guess it's like she's so worried about her friends. I can see it either way. Like if she would have got her hands on Bayley, threw her into some shit, and then went that would have been fine too. I see what you're saying. But the part that it probably shouldn't have made me laugh, but it did. So like they bring her to the medical area, I guess is what WWE will call them. It's a trainer's room. But they bring her to the trainer's room, and Asuka is walking out, and one of the I used to know all these interview people's names, and now I don't anymore. So, but the interview girl was sitting there, and just like, Asuka, how is Kairi Singh? And she's just got this look on her face like she saw a dead body. Like, and I really thought she was going to say, like, she's dead and just walk off. But she didn't say anything. She just walked off. Singh tweeted out the next day, that she's done with the company. Thank you for everything, NXT, whatever. So she's gone. So I'm curious how they're going to play this. Like, I really thought she was going to be like, she's dead, which you can't do. But, so that's, for the first time, they actually stayed true to form and how they're going to end somebody, I guess. But it was a unique circumstance. I don't think it's something you can pull off too often, but I think they did it fine for this.
I'm kind of intrigued to figure out what they're going to do with Sasha now, because now Sasha is now the Raw's Women's Champion, and she's the tag team champion, of course.
Yeah.
So I know they basically been on all three shows already.
Right.
So like I want to see, like, are they gonna be challenged? Is she gonna be challenged from like by Bianca Belair? I want to see that match.
Yeah.
I want to see that match. Or like Shayna. I
Yeah.
would like to see that match too. I
Who,
think Shayna. Oof,
who also made a return on Raw with that
yeah,
with
yeah.
Nia, right? So that happened.
Hmm.
What I would like to see, like, and this always happens when there's like double champions. In this case, it's like a three-way, or there's three belts involved, three titles. Maybe SummerSlam, maybe the show after, but make them both pull double duty. Like they defend the tag belts early in the night, and then they both got to defend their women's titles later in the night.
Yeah,
Like
that's 3 matches right there.
boom, that's that. And SummerSlam's always 9 hours anyway, so you need to fill that
Yeah.
thing. So I
Hmm.
would like to see that. Before we leave the WWE train and mentioning SummerSlam, have you heard about this, read about this, that they are contemplating doing SummerSlam from a cruise ship? Like
Yes, I did.
similar to the
To the
Jericho thing.
Jericho. Yeah.
I would I would love it in a normal year, but this year I'm like, yes, like I would buy the regular pay-per-view price for that to see, to see that happen. Um, I don't. It's really been whispers at this point, so I don't want to sit on it for too long. But like, how would you feel if they did that? Like, would you, is that?
Oh, I
It's got to
would
be better
love
than
it.
what they're doing now.
Yeah. You know what would be awesome too? If they had an angle and like King Corbin gets thrown off the boat type.
Yeah,
Like other than how they did the Money in the Bank thing. We're not gonna talk about
yeah.
that.
They can do maybe Ray if he comes back, with his situation, like he can throw him off the boat because he threw him off the, Well, who else did he throw off?
Alistair.
Alistair. So maybe Alistair can come back and throw him off. That would be good. Yeah, that's definitely something I would like to see happen. But I mean, that's just a whisper right now. If that picks up steam, we'll probably talk about it again. But do it, guys. Like you got nothing to lose, everything to gain. Like that, you might as well try.
Yes.
And they're not even in a
And now,
situation. Go ahead.
now I will say this though. I feel like Jericho is gonna be like, oh, y'all gonna pay me for my ideas now because
Yeah, that's because
he was the first one to do it.
he's done two of them. He's already planning the third one, next year.
Hmm.
But and the beauty of it right now is like they can do it not live. They don't have to worry about the pay-per-view feed when you're at sea or whatever. Like I mean, these last couple pay-per-views, they've just shot them whenever, put them together, put it on pay-per-view. Like there's no one there to spoil unless you're an NXT guy with a phone, with the whole Keith Lee thing.
Yeah.
Which is
End of sheer.
which is a good enough segue. So the way we usually do this, and this is kind of the genesis of how we started this show. On Wednesday nights, this is a podcast divided because I am an AEW watcher live, and Donovan is most of the time, at least, an NXT watcher live.
NXT.
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 So
NXT.
the way this will work, I think, moving forward is Donovan will tell us what was worth seeing on NXT, and then I'll jump over and we'll talk AEW. So the floor is yours. What did I miss on NXT? Because I tend to watch it after anyway, but I haven't yet. So what did I miss?
On NXT, we first opened up with a video package of Donovan Dijakovic, whatever. Dijak,
Yeah.
there you go.
Dijak.
Getting killed by Killer Cross or Karrion Cross. And it was a good little vignette they had going on. And then they went into a tag team match with Yoshirai, Tegan Knox versus Candice LeRae and Dakota Kai. Great. It was a good match. I know during that match, it was the 10-man match over on AEW.
Mm-hmm.
It was really good to watch, and I think you should check it out for sure.
Cool.
These 4 women could definitely brawl, and Yoshirai and Tegan Knox won.
Okay. So you already mentioned the 10-man match. I'm not someone like just because AEW does it doesn't mean it's I'm gonna say it's good. There was a lot of standing around waiting to catch people outside dives and a lot of standing around for like setting up spots in this match. Like I know that's part of the generation we live in, but like if here's the line, like it's they did a little too much in that match, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
So like not the best iteration of it. Their response to that has been there's a 12-man tag for next week. So we'll see if they clean that up at all. Okay, so that was the opening bit. Any other things in the show?
All right, so Rich Holland from NXT UK will be in the triple threat match for the North American title, or to qualify for the ladder
Qualifier.
match at Takeover.
Mm.
He's going to be going against Oni Lorcan and Damian Priest next week. So that's gonna be. I think that's gonna be a banger.
I'm a big Damian Priest
Keith,
fan. I like him a lot.
Me too. Me
Yeah.
too. The only thing that kills me, he reminds me too much of Corbin. But
He'd like Corbin and Roman Reigns if they did a fusion, I feel,
Yeah.
But I liked him in Ring of Honor as Punishment Martinez. Like that.
Martinez, yeah.
Back then I liked him. Yeah, so sorry. Go ahead. I just had to throw that in there.
You good. Another good match to watch. Roderick Strong versus Gargano. Really good match. Them boys are technical.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And I like watching technical fights. I like seeing different moves and different reversals. So Gargano won. So that lit a fire under the Undisputed Era. So after that match, they showed Undisputed Era walking. It was Fish, Cole, and Roderick Strong walking in the hallway. And then they had Kyle O'Reilly finally coming back from his hiatus.
All right.
Actually out there. And he basically hyped them up saying, "Hey, we gotta do better. We gotta make sure they remember who we are." Because they was on a losing streak if you think about it. They lost the tag team championships. They lost the world title. They've been falling.
Yeah, that's true.
So then they had Everrise versus Imperium,
which I like a lot, actually. Imperium.
Yeah, I like Imperium. Yeah, it was a non-title fight.
Yeah, so the guy I do forget their name, Fabian something. That's one of them, right?
Fabian Eichner. Yeah.
So when they did the Cruiserweight Classic, that guy lost in the first round, but he did so much crazy stuff, and then he just lost to like a no-nothing move. But like even back then, I was like, wow, that guy's incredible. And then he shows up, all these years later as a part of Imperium, and he's on UK. I don't know much about his tag partner. He seems like no slouch, but like as a team, I definitely like those guys.
Yeah, for sure. But after the match, Undisputed Era came out and laid waste to them, and now they got a tag team championship match next week.
All right.
So we got Imperium versus Undisputed Era, Bobby Fish, and Kyle O'Reilly, his first match since the whole pandemic. So that's gonna be a good watch for next week as well. And then Keith Lee basically manhandled Cameron Grimes because Keith Lee was pissed. And Karrion Kross challenged him for the title, but William Regal said Karrion has to earn it. So we'll see what happens from that. And then you had Dexter Lumis qualify in another good tag triple threat match.
Okay.
Really good triple threat match.
So how many is there going to be total? Is there only 3?
There's like five.
Five from the triple threat.
You got Bronson Reed already there, and then you got Dexter Lumis in there now.
I just have to the way they're doing it is fine. Like the original champion was a ladder match. Why can't this be a ladder match? That's fine. But I really wanted an NXT Rumble for this. I wanted the NXT's version of Royal Rumble. Thought it would have been great. It's perfect time to do it. Like everybody would have watched. There's nothing wrong with what they're doing, but like I had to throw it out there. That was the idea, that I would have liked. So was that the main event? That one there, the triple threat?
That was the main event. Yeah, it was a really good match. I love Dexter Lumis, man.
Yeah,
he's great.
I remember him in TNA. Was he Samuel Shaw? He was this like mental patient, and he's not very far off from that gimmick here. His tattoos, though, man. Like I don't know why he felt the need to black out everything. Like I remember when he didn't. There was nothing like wrong or about them that they needed to be blacked out, but like they throw me off so much that they're like that. Like that's your skin's gotta be leather at that point. Like just as a human being,
for sure.
He's like 10% lizard now because of that. So before we jump to AEW, we already talked about the Undisputed Era. They were in the news for another reason like last week, and it's not often I have to text you in the middle of the day about something wrestling related, but Adam Cole was on the Pat McAfee show, something that I listen to every single day when I'm at work. Love Pat McAfee, love everything he does. I think wrestling fans are mixed on him about his appearances on like pre-shows and stuff, but as like a football player and everything else, and like his show and everything. I've been a fan really since it's been started. So Adam Cole shows up. He was in Indianapolis visiting family, which is where the show is shot. He shows up in the studio. They have about a 10-minute conversation. They're kind of shooting jabs back and forth at each other where he's like, well, Pat, you were a great player, but you were a punter. Like, it doesn't mean much. And then he, more of a, well, you were only that good because you have the Undisputed Era behind you. And it's a good thing, too, because you're kind of a small guy, and apparently that set him off. He broke a microphone. He shoved Ty Schmidt, one of the assistants, F-bombs aplenty, and then he stormed out. And a lot of people are saying, is this a work? Is this a shoot? I don't care. I just want it to happen. I just want Adam Cole and Pat McAfee at TakeOver 30. But what was your thoughts?
That was crazy. Now watching it, then I loved it because you actually saw like Adam Cole. He really was acting himself, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Like he was pissed, and I understand that too because he was taking jabs the whole time, and I'm watching. I'm like, Pat, bro, you got to see Adam Cole. He's rocking in his chair.
Yeah, you saw the demeanor change.
Yeah, so it's just like, why are you still? He's just poking him, and he's gonna burn it. He snapped.
Yeah,
exactly what he did. But I ain't gonna lie to you, it was a work.
Yeah, what? It probably is, but I don't like. I'm okay with that. Like it's still,
I'm okay with it too.
If you make me go, holy shit, like in the middle at my office at my desk, like in the middle of the day, like I'm fine with that. Like, and it's something that's been brewing for a while. They've taken jabs of each other, jabs at each other on like pre-shows and stuff already. So like if it's a work, it's a long-term work, and that's always good,
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh yeah. For years, they used to take jabs at each other. Adam Cole used to say, "Shut up, Pat."
Yeah.
But I was gonna say they showed it on NXT last night too.
Okay.
So that right there showed me like, okay, yeah, it was a work.
And Triple H did come on McAfee's show a couple days later and kind of apologized for not for Adam, said he's a grown man, he can do that on his own, which he ended up tweeting an apology. But just like, I'm sorry the situation happened, just basically like, Triple H's stance. And he has then invited McAfee to come to NXT so they can talk about it, which, everybody, they want to be surprised. And then when something like this happens, they want to bury it and just say it's a work. So it's like, you pick your point. I'd rather the work be entertaining because the shoots haven't been great. So do you think, because McAfee has spoken that he wants to get in the ring at some point. He's actually wrestled one match back when you played at West Virginia, some little rinky-dink indie fed in Kentucky or something. But he said he wants to, it's like a bucket list thing for him. And like I follow him on Instagram, the guy's working out like a machine. Like he's in better shape now than when he played in the NFL, which is crazy to think about. So I think it's something he wants to do. My biggest thing, it's not a matter of if it's going to happen. There's going to be some altercation, whether it's just like a shoving match and stuff. But do you think we'll get like one-on-one, or do you think it's like Adam Cole and the Undisputed Era and like McAfee has to pick a team of guys and he's in their corner? Like, do you think it'll be more like, if I know Pat, he wants to get involved. Like, it's at least going to be a tag match that he's in, I would think. Like, but do you think it's going to be, is there a better chance of a one-on-one match or the group thing?
I think you're better off with the group thing, just so so it doesn't really expose how green McAfee is.
Yeah.
Just like, because just like how on D'Angelo Williams, it was a tag team match.
Yeah.
And he wasn't really fluent with his stuff, but it still looked good for when he was in there. I mean, I think the hot tag will be awesome.
Yeah. D'Angelo Williams is the best non-wrestler I've ever seen in wrestling right now.
Yeah.
The way he picked that shit up was insane. And then he, anyone that hasn't seen, he was in Impact Wrestling. Look up D'Angelo Williams Impact Wrestling. He had a tag match, and at the end, they wanted him to just do a simple splash off the ropes through a table, and he totally whiffs, basically DDTs him. He does arm drags. He does all this great stuff, like, fluently, and then he misses the splash. And then I forget who his partner was. They just, to cover up for him, they just, like, pick up the guy and powerbomb him through the table. But, yeah, so, like, the weirdest thing is, like, McAfee's closest friend in WWE, believe it or not, is actually Baron Corbin, because they grew up in the same area of Pennsylvania. So, but it'd be hard to put him on McAfee's side, being that he's, like, one of the biggest heels. unless you paint it as, look at this outsider coming in, and then he can have a group of heels. So
Yeah.
really, it's still in the early stages. I wanted to throw it on here before it picks up, but I'm 1,000% here for it, and I definitely want something to happen. Work, shoot or not, it's been entertaining, and that's how I feel about that.
Facts. It
Fact.
was
So
great. It was great though.
for sure. So quick rundown of AEW. Like I said, in the future we'll do this a little differently, but the things worth we already mentioned the tag match there at the opener. Left a little to be desired, not because the guys that ran it, just that there was too many cooks in the kitchen. Everyone's trying to get their shit in, as they say. So when you pass that, I think the other thing worth mentioning is Cody Rhodes defending the TNT Championship against independent wrestling darling Warhorse, a guy that I have not seen a whole lot of. My biggest thing about him, and I'll probably talk about this game more as it gets closer to release, there's this new independent wrestling game coming out called Retro Mania Wrestling. And they had a tournament that you voted on an independent wrestler would get a spot in this game. It's coming out on Switch, PS4, Xbox, all the good stuff. And Warhorse won the tournament. He beat guys like Shug D, who's now Pineapple Pete in AEW. He beat Matt Cross, who is a independent wrestling legend. I believe he beat him in the finals even. Chris Bay, who's now the Impact X Division champion. So this is a guy with a huge following. So he comes out. I've heard it explained the best way. He is a Ultimate Warrior parody to a guy who's never actually seen Ultimate Warrior. He was just told about him. Like, he's very similar. He's got the face paint. He's got the tassels on his boots. He's a more cruiserweight sized guy, though. Like, I would say if I don't know, a smaller wrestler was cosplaying as Ultimate Warrior is a lot what this guy's about. But I've never seen a match like live. I've seen like highlights and stuff. But they had a good 10, 12-minute match. Cody gets the win with the figure four after some back and forth. It was good psychology. Cody didn't really take him seriously. And because of that, like, Warhorse got a few, good shots on him. Ended up picking up the intensity, getting the win. Nothing hurt Cody, made Warhorse look great. And then I believe it was the Dark Order comes out to jump him, and he is saved by always ready Matt Cardona, the former Zack Ryder. So he's now an Impact, and I think it's a good place to stop here. I think it's a great spot as any, considering Brandon Myers is an Impact. They don't want to just be a tag team all the time now. I think they've said they'll take tag bookings, but they want to both have the singles run that they both deserved. So I think it's a perfect place to keep them separate. Him and Cody have always been, great friends. What are your opinions on the former Zack Ryder, Matt Cardona in AEW?
I think it was a good pickup for AEW. I'm tired of people saying, "Oh, all they're doing is just taking WWE's leftovers." Some of these people really, really deserve a better platform than when it was with WWE. It was overshadowed by the other wrestlers. So I think he's gonna take off, and he became jacked.
Yes,
jacked.
Absolutely.
That man is. He was looking like Brandon Cage out there.
Yeah,
he was jacked.
It's funny because he hit the Rough Rider on some guys, right? And
yeah,
I think he calls it radio static. He put on Twitter that's going to be the new name of it. But like when he was a normal sized dude, you understood him like hitting a move like that where you basically like jump up and leg drop somebody to the ground. But he was so big that it almost looked goofy because like the little Dark Order guys that he was hitting, like it was just such a like you would have rather him like pick somebody up and slam him as opposed to like do something like that. But yeah, no, I'm excited to see. I think next week him and Cody are teaming against the Dark Order, so we'll see him in ring action, which will be great to see. I've always been a fan of Zack Ryder and stuff, Brandon Myers as well. The thing different with Brandon Myers is he was released and brought back before, whereas with Ryder, Cardona, whatever you want to call him, this is his first non-WWE stint, and I'm here for it, and I'm definitely excited for it. I won't talk too much on it because he hasn't been in the ring yet. I think there'll be more to say next week, but it was a great surprise. And it's just one of those things that you wish there was a crowd there because it deserved that moment. It really did. Main event being go ahead, sorry.
I actually saw that. I saw that. I saw when he came out, and it was weird because he didn't have no music coming out. He was just walking out, and like I feel like if there was a crowd, they would have had the music, the pyro, and then everyone would have been like, "Oh!" And he would have got the biggest pop of the night.
Here's my thing with debuts though. Sometimes I don't mind it that way. Because it makes sense. If you're new to, like when you start a new job and like they don't have your name tag yet, like if you're brand new to a company, it makes sense they don't have your music and a video ready for you. To me, you know, like in certain situations, it makes sense to do it that way. So I was fine with it. Granted, yeah, I think if there was a crowd, they would have had, you know, whatever. His new song was made independently of AEW. It sounds pretty cool. I've checked it out already. So yeah, I think people would have went ballistic, but like, given there was no crowd, it made sense to maybe do it, you know, the way they're doing it. So the main event too was the AEW Tag Title match. You got Hangman Page and Kenny Omega against the Dark Order team of Evil Uno and Stu Grayson. A great match. They had Colt Cabana on commentary for it because he's in the middle of that Dark Order storyline. The champs did end up retaining. And what was it? A pretty decent match. There was a couple miscues, but I can never tell in the tag title matches if the miscues are on purpose because they're really playing up the dysfunction between Hangman and Kenny. So half of the times when things don't go quite right, I feel like it's intentional. But overall, you know, it's pretty good. Another solid episode, of course, of AEW. So the last other thing of note I wanted to bring in AEW is Monday. Their action figure line drops, actually. So you can get those at Walmart. I don't know if it's only Walmart, but that's what's on the commercial. Where are you as far as wrestling action figures? Or was that something you were ever dabbling in as a little kid or anything else?
As a little kid, yeah. As a little kid, I used to have a couple action figures. Of course, The Rock, Stone Cold. My sister had The Undertaker. That was her favorite wrestler.
Nice.
But yeah, that's really. And I used to have the little titles and stuff attached.
Yeah,
to
I still have a lot of belts. I mean, as we've grown up, that's transferred into actual replica belts. You know, the big money thing. But no, I mean, back then I did like having all the toy ones. I've been watching. We mentioned Cardona, Zack Ryder earlier. He's got the podcast about all the wrestling figures, and I started watching it, and it made me want to like. So I've bought a few in the past year, but in the sense that I want to keep them in the package, like. I want to buy like my all-time favorite wrestlers, but keep them in the package. So I bought the Hardys. I bought, you know, Taz, which that might have just given away our closing segment here. But like I have the original ECW figure Taz, which I'm pretty proud of. I got like Enzo Amore. I was a big fan of him. I just picked up a Gallows and Anderson WWE set, and I found this old-ass Jim Cornette figure, which I had to pick up because he's got the tennis racket and everything.
I was gonna. I actually does he have the tennis racket?
Yeah. No, it's like from '98. It's the old Jack specific like toy line of them. It's pretty funny. Next time, I don't know if I can. I got him right here. I don't know if you're gonna see him in the camera very well. Let's see if I can. Yeah, there he is. So and then here's the racket. See if I can with this background. It makes it a little harder, but there's the racket right there. But yeah, so there's Jim Cornette here. All right. Well, man, this has been a lot of fun. I'm excited to start this journey. We're going to try to do this weekly, I think. If not, it's going to be bi-weekly. I think it's either way is going to work. I'm going to introduce here to close out the show 2 segments that we're going to move forward. They probably won't end the show every time, but just to get introduction. First one's going to be a top 3. Every episode we will have a top 3 of some sort, whether based on something that happened in the show or something more, you know, evergreen that we want to talk about. Today, since it is the introduction, I figured it would be easy enough. Top 3 is just going to be your favorite wrestlers all time. So, Donovan, you go ahead and start. Who's your top 3?
All right. For number 3, we got Shawn Michaels, HBK, the Heart Rate Kid. I liked him because he was a little guy, but he always backed it up. He always talked all the crap, and he always showed what he wanted to do. And he was part of my favorite tag team in D-Generation X. So that was perfect. Number 2, we got Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, of course. Main reason is because his birthday is my birthday as well.
Nice.
So,
all right.
So I was like, yeah, that got to be my favorite. And he played for the Hurricanes too.
Oh yeah, there you go.
And then number 1, of course, the Glass Shatter, toughest SOB, the Rattlesnake, Stone Cold Steve Austin. My favorite.
Yeah. Easy top 3 there. That makes
easy
sense.
Top 3.
I mean, Austin. I had a weird thing with Austin. I like as a kid I liked him, but now that I'm a beer drinking adult myself, I love him now. Like I like him more now than I did when he was wrestling. You know.
Yeah, I
So
feel
so
that.
he's in my top. I'd say he's in my top 5. I just have to push him out just a little bit because I try to save it for people that I've liked, the entire time. So number 3, and I kind of just tipped it off a little bit. Number 3 is Taz. He was one of my favorite of all time. Um, ECW, even though in WWF it wasn't, the greatest run or whatever, but overall Taz is still the best for me. And seeing him with a resurgence as a manager in AEW has been a lot of fun. So number 2, it was short-lived to an extent because compared to other guys, his career was shorter. CM Punk, the guy, you'll hear this from a lot of people, the pipe bomb brought me back to wrestling. I was kind of not watching it nearly as much. He brought me back. The number 1, without a doubt, it'll never change, even if I don't love what they're doing with him now, is Jeff Hardy. He was the first guy, like I said, when I first started watching wrestling, I was playing the video game. I picked this dude with rainbow hair, and then I jumped to the first time seeing him on TV, and he's jumping off ladders, crashing through tables. But Jeff Hardy's always definitely been the number 1.
He's definitely like one of the most entertaining
Yeah.
characters that WWE ever had. Him and Matt, of course, the Hardys.
And then if you want to throw out some honorable mentions, to me, it was hard to leave like Rey Mysterio and Eddie Guerrero off the list, but they're definitely in the top 10. So do you have any other honorable mentions?
Honorable mentions, we had I had Triple H, of course.
Okay.
Other part of D Generation X.
Mm-hmm.
And I loved Kane growing up too. Just because he was like he was the first person I was actually scared of.
Yeah.
I wasn't really scared of the Undertaker.
Yeah, it was a little too cartoony.
Yeah, but Kane, he's just a big guy with a jumpsuit on and gloves and a big old mask on covering his face with fake hair.
Mm-hmm.
That freaked me out. And throwing fire everywhere. So that's like that's crazy. That was crazy.
For sure.
But those 2 my honorable mentions.
Right on. So that's our first edition of Top 3. We'll have another one next week. We'll find out what the topic is. If you want to go ahead and tweet us, I still use the @PhilTalkSports podcast Twitter channel, but I'll use it for this too. Just hashtag Wrestle Report. If you have a top 3 you want us to do, go ahead and give us that with the hashtag Wrestle Report. If those are flying in, we'll definitely do some of those. If not, we'll have to think of some. Probably as we get going here, we'll think of our own here. But the other segment that is going to be on every episode, we might add, we might take away, but these are the 2 that will always be there. We're going to have our top 3, and this one that we came up with, which is simply, who booked this shit? So we're going to mention something. We're going to try and keep it moving forward within the week that just happened. But since we're just starting, we're going to pick something somewhat recently. So, Donovan, you go ahead and start. What is your who booked this shit of recent memory?
All right. Who booked The Fiend losing against Goldberg? Why? Why? You just killed all the momentum of The Fiend. Now everyone's going to say if The Fiend wins the Universal Championship again against Braun Strowman, all we got to do is get Goldberg to go and beat him.
Yeah, that's true.
And we don't want that. And Goldberg, I'm sorry, I was never really a big fan of Goldberg growing up. I felt like he was a one-trick pony.
Yeah.
Did a spear, jackhammer, that's it. There was no reason for him to beat The Fiend.
Yeah.
In Saudi Arabia on top of that.
Yeah. The other weird thing is, I don't know if you hear that thunder on the recording here, but it is thunder and lightning and pouring something crazy out there. So hopefully you guys still hear us fine. But the crazy thing about that, as bad as it was, and it was terrible. It was a terrible idea. I never hated Goldberg. He wasn't like my top guy or anything, but like, I don't want to hate him. So stop giving me reasons to hate him, WWE, But the weird thing is, like, the Universal titles on Strowman, that's going okay. The John Cena match at WrestleMania, the Firefly Funhouse, that kind of happened because he dropped the belt. So at least we have that to savor with it. Although that would have been almost cooler for the belt. Like you could have done that. But I mean, Strowman, you don't get Strowman versus Goldberg if it's not for the belt. I think they booked themselves into a corner when they did it. While the match, why that is definitely a who booked this shit moment. At least the Fiend has somewhat got his heat back, and the world didn't end the way we thought it would. But yeah, definitely terrible decision. The one I'm gonna pick, I'm picking because one of us was gonna say it. I gave him the option. He had his other one in mind, so it's good. And this one's a little more recent. Who booked the eye for an eye match? I mean, when they first, granted, they win because when I heard that, I'm like, I have to see what they're gonna do. Like, they're not ripping dudes' eyes out of their skull, right? And it was a dumb premise. It was dumb in execution. I mean, they did here's the thing. When he puts the eyeball into the corner of the steps, you're pushing towards the steps. How does that make your eyeball come out? I've clearly overthought this, but at least I'm giving it more thought than they did, you know? And then
your eyes definitely getting pushed in.
And, Ray was wearing that full body suit kind of gimmick, so I assume he had the eyeball on him somewhere. You barely see it. And to me, what sums it all up is, he's fighting on the steps for what felt like a day. And then he comes out and he's screaming and yelling, and you get that one shot where you kind of see the eyeball out, and you just hear Michael Cole say, "It's out." And then the bell rings, and that's it. And it was the anticlimactic thing ever. So that is.
I will say this though: the match was good though.
Yeah,
the match was good. It was intense, but until the end,
the match was fine. It's the stipulation that pissed me off. And the other thing is, I could even fix it right here. Like, remember a couple weeks ago when the first time they had Ray's eye hit the steps and it was bleeding and everything? Do you remember when he first did that? What if it was just a no DQ match where he did that and then pinned him? That would have made such a bigger deal. It's like, oh shit, his eye hit the thing, and you don't gotta actually have the stipulation of, oh, he has to take.
Yeah. The opponent got to take someone else's eye out.
Yeah.
No, you don't need that.
What are you gonna do? A shotgun on a pole match where the only way to win is to take it down?
Shoot. Yeah.
I don't know what's gonna happen next. So, So that is definitely mine. And I think that's gonna just about wrap up the first Wrestle Report. Donovan, thanks for getting together with this. I'm excited to go on this journey here as we look to become the tag team champions of wrestling podcasting. So hopefully we can make that happen. So guys,
that ladder, baby.
Yes, sir. So we'll catch you next week. I'm Phil. That's Donovan, and that is the Wrestle Report. Peace.